What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex. You watching the Ragin Ronin review. I got a review for you. Last night I saw Robocop. That would be the 2014 remake of the 1987 classic film of the same name, directed by Paul Verhoeven. This time around, it's directed by Jose Padilla, and they're calling it a remake, but I wouldn't exactly call it a remake. I would call it more like a reimagination. It's kind of like what Tim Burton did with the Planet of the Apes. They kept the main concept down and the foundation of the story, but everything else has been changed. It has been updated, and the same thing applies to the Robocop remake because they kept the main concept of a cop getting critically injured and them rebuilding him into a cyborg. Part machine, part man, all cop, okay? They kept that foundation of the story down, but everything else has been changed. I mean, they have to update it for the times in terms of the technology, the visual effects, of course, and current events. So we're in 2014 now. Obviously, a lot of things have changed from 1987 to 2014. So I don't mind that they changed the story. They changed a lot of the story. There's so many elements of the story in the remake that did not exist in the 1987 classic film, which is totally fine. I get that. The story actually is decent, even though they changed it up. Now, they still kept a lot of elements, a number of elements from the classic film, and they imported it over to the remake, which is really cool. They paid homage to the original, but still a lot of things have been changed, and I really don't mind that. I don't mind that they're not telling a updated carbon copy of the original, so they're not retelling the same story all over again. A number of things have changed, but essentially this is Robocop. Now, I'm gonna do my best to not review this movie constantly comparing it to the original, because the original is a classic film. I love that film, but this time around, it's very, very different. And one of the main differences is the fact that the original is R-rated. This time around, it's PG-13, so a lot of the violence has been watered down. And I think that hurts the film quite a bit. Now, it's not the story that I have a problem with. It is actually the characters. And these characters are just not very strong. I don't mean physically, but they don't have much of a presence. And this is the main issue that I have with Robocop. I mean, the remake, okay? This movie is completely, almost utterly, completely void of human emotion. Now, the original one, there was a lot of emotion, human emotion. There's a lot of the human element in the original classic film. Even an action sequence has emotion in it, okay? Even when he's just fighting a bunch of drug lords, there's emotion in it. But this movie is completely lacking of emotion. Now, there's supposed to be emotional elements in this movie. Like, for example, there's a huge emphasis on Robocop and his relationship with his wife, Alex Murphy, and his relationship with his family, his wife and his son. But I don't buy it. Now, the main reason why is because it's just really, really hard to make it believable when you have Joel Kinnaman, who is really not that great of an Alex Murphy. I mean, his performance is not that great. When you have Joel Kinnaman in a rubber suit, and we're supposed to believe that that is Robocop. Now, this rubber suit allows him to be more agile, of course, but Peter Weller's performance in the original Robocop, where he's like, that was completely believable. This time around, the suit does not feel cumbersome. It does not feel heavy. It does not feel it can really take a beating, because it just looks like a rubber suit to me. And because of that, it really distracts from it being believable. So, man, it looks like they slapped on a rubber suit and they added sound effects to make it sound like it's heavy. But it doesn't work for me, and that distracts me from the character. It distracts me from the believability of the character. And to top things off, Joel Kinnaman as Alex Murphy and Robocop is not that believable. And the main reason why is because they didn't take the time to develop his character as Alex Murphy. Okay? Right when we first get introduced to his character, they get right into it. And from that moment on, the emotion that he has right when you first meet him is the same emotion that he has for the rest of the film, and that is he's constantly angry. He's constantly like, what's wrong with me? I want to kill this guy, or we're gonna kick his ass, or you know, like he's just like that throughout the entire movie, and it's completely void of any actual human emotion. Now, do you remember in Transformers, a lot of fans were talking about how there was too much of the human element, not enough robots, like robot screen time and robot fighting. In this case, in Robocop, there's too much of the robot himself, but not enough of the human element. Because like I said before, the original film was a very, even though it's a robot film, there's a lot of the human element in there. There's a lot of emotion. This time, it's very lacking in emotion. And there should be more emotion because Alex Murphy, in this time around, in the Robocop remake, he is self-aware. They changed a lot of the things in the remake, and the main thing that he changed was that he is self-aware of the fact that he is a cyborg. And that is something that wasn't present in the classic film until later on in the movie. But this time, right away, he's self-aware, and that makes it harder to believe because it's really just out there. It's such a far-fetched thing to buy into. But they kind of make it work in some sense, mainly because what is great about this film that I like, aside from the fact that aside from, you know, like the whole emotional element, is that there's a lot of attention to detail. There's a lot of the robot element in there and how it works, the technology, the mechanics of it. They really put a lot of detail in how Robocop can actually function as a cyborg. That is pretty cool. I like how they did that. They even included a scene which is pretty shocking of what Alex Murphy looks like outside of all his robot armor, which was actually quite disturbing, in fact. But what it didn't have is the scenes where Alex is brutally murdered. It's very different. So because of that, of the lacking of that scene, of you know, when Peter Weller gets shot up in a warehouse where he's blown to bits, they don't have a scene like that in the remake, and because of that, it lacks in that sort of emotional devastation. So because of that, we end up not. I personally don't care a whole lot for Alex Murphy's cause. I'm just there to watch robots and action, and that's what I got. But I'll tell you something, the action is just all style, no substance. It's just him going bang, 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 bang. And then, you know, I really don't care. There's no real emotion in why he needs to get these bad guys. Like, I don't really care for his cause. And the only thing that I felt in terms of emotion is the connection with the son and Alex Murphy. That is the only sense of human connection and emotion that I really felt. But other than that, it's not a whole lot of any actual feelings in this film. So that is really unfortunate. It is something that that I felt could have made the movie a lot better. And when I was watching the film right away, I thought it looked promising. I liked what they were doing with you know, having robots in the Middle East. That was pretty cool. That was something that it was different. It was something that I felt was an original piece in the story element. But afterwards, there was really no time to develop characters. Joel Kinnaman as Alex Murphy has no depth to his character. I kind of like the scenes where Robocop is training and learning how to become Robocop. That's kind of cool. And there was some cool robot-on-robot fighting. But other than that, yeah, there's not a whole lot going for this movie. I mean, if you are a fan of the original, you will not like this movie that much, okay? But if you have never seen the original, it's a pretty good piece of entertainment. I have to say, in terms of the characters, I mean, the other actors, Gary Oldman? Gary Oldman was great. I really like Gary Oldman in this movie. I really, his character is really believable. He put on a great performance. And yeah, they needed a character like him in this movie. Gary Oldman's always great to watch. He's a great actor. Samuel Jackson, as usual, he's fun to watch. I mean, he plays himself, but I liked him as who he played as a character in this movie. So he was fun to watch. Michael Keaton, always a great marvel, a charm to see him back on the big screen. But the problem with Michael Keaton's character is that I kept on seeing Bruce Wayne. in the 1989 Tim Burton Batman movie. I really didn't see the character that he was playing as Richard Sellers as the OCP guy, right? I didn't even see him. I didn't even think of him or really believed him to be like a big CEO type character. And a lot of it had to do with like, you know, he's kind of young, still kind of young looking. He wasn't an old man. His mannerisms, him playing like himself, kind of like Bruce Wayne. The fact that his wardrobe is always like in jeans and just like a shirt, never wearing a suit. You know, so I didn't really buy his character. But other than that, it had some pretty cool effects, some good action. The antagonists are kind of weak. Yeah, there was no real actual. I didn't think there was an actual villain in this movie, like a strong villain that Robocop needed to go after. I didn't feel that in the entire movie. I just felt it was just Robocop killing off a bunch of like random bad guys. That's all it was. And as for Ed 209, in the original, Ed 209 was scary. Ed 209 was a real character, even though he's just a robot in the classic film. But Ed 209 in the remake is just a bunch of robots that I don't really care about. So I'm sorry to say, but like the fans are divided. Some people really think it's great, you know, it's awesome, but another bunch is like, oh man, you know, stick to the original. And I'm gonna have to tell you guys, you know, if you're old enough to watch the original, watch the original, and the original's the best. But this one was a decent movie. It was a decent piece of entertaining. I don't think it's a bad movie, but it didn't work hard enough to try to be good. All right, so I'm giving it a 5.75 out of 10. And yeah, kind of a renter for me. It's a rental for me. And there you have it. That's all I gotta say in this video. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter at Ragin Nation. I'll see you next time. Peace. You know, and then you have Morgan Freeman, Elizabeth Banks, Liam Neeson, Will Ferrell, and the list goes on, and a lot of great cameos. And it just